I made a decision to tackle it on my own, and I'd rather die under my own trial and error versus the doctor's trial and error.
Anthony, how did you find Carnivore?
Hey, Dave. My name's Anthony, and I found Carnivore back in September of 2023, I believe. So I'm now, what's that, 18, 22 months, something like that, in the Carnivore. I'm not good on the math, but I'm over a year. Six. And then how I found Carnivore, it's a crazy story. It's hard to believe, honestly, but as we talk about it, you'll understand it. Back in July of 2022, I had a surgery back in Seattle, Washington. Uh, the surgery, they removed about a quarter to a third of my stomach and intestines. I lost a tumor. That was the whole reason for the surgery, is I had a tumor inside of my stomach that was, I'm not entirely sure on the measurements, roughly the size of a softball. So what is that, 8 by 9 by 10 centimeters, give or take. And then during surgery, they had operated on my liver as well because tumors had spread to my liver. And mind you, at this point, I'd already been to a couple cancer centers. I was told they were benign tumors. Go ahead, do surgery. It's fine. And 2 months later, September of 2022, I went to my local cancer center to go over the biopsy results finally from the surgical procedures. Came back as stage 4 cancerous. In a previous interview, I had discussed with you that they told me 6 months to live. I needed to hop on treatment. I did a treatment called sunitinib. It was a pill, targeted therapy is what they call it. I did that for 130 days straight, not a break at all. It aged me. It more than aged me. It almost killed me. My face went white, my hair went white, my kidney was shutting down, heart problems, afibrillation, seizure activities, which a lot of these underlying conditions I already dealt with, but chemo intensified everything, like made it all worse. And then I quit chemo January 31st, 2023, after the 130 days of treatment, when I realized that treatment made me worse. Made the cancer spread, the cancer's growth rate got bigger, like multiplied. And so that's when I realized the doctors don't necessarily know what they're doing. Because at that time I had seen two different nutritionalists. One was a regular nutritionalist, one was a cancer nutritionalist, and I was told to eat whatever I need to eat as long as it stays in the body. Nutrition is nutrition. That is better than not eating at all. So during my regimen of treatment was 130 days. I ate whatever I could fit inside the body and stay within. That's what I was told to do. Of course, I was exercising the best I could at that time, but mind you, after surgery, I was on a 5 pound weight limit for like 3 or 4 months, and then it wasn't till October, November I started going to the pool. Um, and that was back in 2022. So when I quit chemo in January 23, due to the fact that chemo didn't help any and I got worse, I made a, how do you word it? I made a decision to decide to tackle it on my own, and I'd rather die under my own trial and error versus the doctor's trial and error, because at least I could understand how I felt and the doctors couldn't. I had to relay the messages to the doctors on what was going on. As far as feeling goes, they could only look at blood work. And mind you, blood work wasn't very impressive or good during chemo times. So after I quit chemo, I started a plant-based diet right off the get-go. Vegan, plant-based, whatever you want to call it. I did that. It was supposed to be for 3 months. I think I made it 2 months on that. And my blood work didn't get any better. I felt slightly better in the beginning, but as the diet went on, I didn't see any improvements. As we talk about this, we'll understand why I didn't see improvements. We'll get to that. I've also done the Mediterranean diet. I've done a vegan-based diet. Vegan I did for 3 months. I felt pretty good under vegan. And I started thinking, what is the common factor between vegan and plant-based? Because, how do I word this? Every 3 months at that time, I was going in for imaging, CT scans, PET scans, whatever type of scan I was getting called for. And so that's why I decided if I'm doing 3 month scans, I'll do diets for 3 months to see what the food would do to the cancer, per 3 month intervals. Well, plant based fed it, the Mediterranean fed it, of course, standard American. I did that most of my life, and look what happened to me. Um, I guess I'm classified as stage 4 GIST cancer. I forgot to mention that. So GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. Um, so once I went keto, no, the cancer growth slowed down drastically. And I'm like, what's the common factor between keto and plant based? Is you're limiting carbohydrates. I mean, of course, keto is a lot less than plant based because plants break down into sugar, which that's what carbohydrates or yeah, carbohydrates break down into sugar. So after keto or during keto, a friend of mine sent me a video of a guy named Jeff DeProsperous. Blessings on my journey. He had stage 4 colon cancer, and I started watching his videos, and he was doing in-house treatment or the bottle treatment, whatever they put him on, for his regimen, and he was doing carnivore. And I'm like, this dude's doing chemo and carnivore, and he's looking amazing, feeling good, and he's living with a more aggressive type of cancer than I have. So I started getting a hold of him, and of course, he didn't respond right away. And I hopped on carnivore September 1st, 2023. So yeah, I'm going on, was that 16 months now, 17 months. And the first 3 months were strict. Beef, butter, bacon, eggs, that is it. I didn't cheat at all. I just stayed disciplined. And during that 3 months, my next scan, there was no cancer growing. Like the growth rate stopped, the tumors stopped. And even in the blood work through my naturopathic office showed 0 tumor cells per 7.5 milliliters of blood. And in the beginning, I had 1 tumor cell per 7.5 milliliters of blood. And so that tells me that switching to carnivore was not only a smart move for feeling well, the cancer hated it, couldn't grow with it. And that led me into continuing on carnivores. Like I said, I'm 16 months now. I've allowed myself to live a little bit. I'm not just beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I have chicken, I have seafood, other stuff like that. Now I've broadened my horizons of the carnivore meals, um, which is nicer. It's not as repetitive. But speaking of repetitive, people ask me, Anthony, how can you eat the same stuff almost every day? Which for the first, like I said, the first 3 months was everything the same day, same time. And what I tell people, yes, it's repetitive, but when you feel good, it's hard to argue with how you feel. So why would you want to throw something into the system that's going to make you not feel good? The prime example of that is on Thanksgiving this last month. I was like, oh, Thanksgiving's only once a year. I'll let my guard down. I'll live a little bit because, we're humans. We have temptation issues. And it started with green bean casserole. I ate that, and the next thing you know, I was eating everything in sight. No self control, and I was sick for like 3 or 4 days after Thanksgiving. And so I've realized that it's super important to stay strict on your regiments, not only with food but everything in life. If it makes you feel good, why would you want to break something? How does the saying go? Why would you fix something if it's not broke?
Right. And so from the 1st of September 23 until your latest scan, there's been no growth at all.
There's actually been some shrinkage since September last year and 23 till now. I've been playing around with a lot of more metabolic approach style stuff. So how do I word this? I quit chemo January 23. I started a gym membership 3 weeks later, so it was into February 23. I started a gym membership. So all these different diets, all these different routines, supplements, everything's been the same. Far as I'm still going to the gym for the same amount of time. I'm still, my outside of the eating routine's the same. It's just my eating changes up until carnivore. Now it's been same since carnivore. So since September of last year of 23 till now, some tumors are the same size. Some tumors have shrunk completely. I had one shrink down to what they say is about a 40% reduction in size. And from a standpoint from before surgery, which was July of 2022 till now, the tumors that are left are the same size as they were before poking the bear with surgery and chemo in 2022. Um, but I don't give credit just to carnivore. I give like 90% credit to carnivore because a body that's not inflamed could heal, and carnivore eating does not inflame the body as long as you do it properly. But I've realized intermittent fasting is important. Prolonged fasting is important. Actually, this last month I went 90 hours no food, which is just shy of 4 days. And January 1st, I plan a 7 day fast. So it'll be my longest fast coming up at 7 days. I'm excited but nervous for that. But hey, it's one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. Don't think about food. I've been, of course, exercising with intentions, which is very important. A body in motion will stay in motion. And I've also been experimenting with parasite cleansing. Um, Cancer itself is not a parasite, but as I've been studying it and learning through Professor Thomas Sidfree, the way tumors attach to the body is like how a parasite would. So you need a chemical compound to help, unrelease the agent so the tumors could, dissolve or disappear, whatever they do. And another game changer, in my opinion, is red light therapy. Um, Red light therapy I've been doing for the last 6 months or so. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's every other day. I myself don't know all the logistics on the timing of it, how much. I'm just, self administrating my own cycle of red light. But red light therapy is really good for your mitochondria health. And as I've learned, the cancer, how do I word this? In today's world, the Cancer Society says cancer's genetics. In my case, yes, we're 95% sure it is genetics. I got it through my great grandmother because just as rare. I have two mutations. One's SDHA and one's the hereditary one. But with all that being said, I'm still a firm believer that cancer is not genetics. It's mitochondria. It's a dysfunction in the mitochondria that makes your cells mutate, and that's where the cancer comes from. Um, And in blunt terms, just to be simple, red light mimics the sunlight. I mean, there's more to it than that, but it just mimics the sunlight. And I'm sure you know that the sun is very vital to our health. I think it's like what 10 minutes of sun every morning is equivalent to like 40,000 IUs of vitamin D3 or something like that. It's ridiculous.
If if you could have your time over again, would you replace that period of chemo that you had? Would you just change that out to the modalities that you're using now?
So if I'm being 100% honest, and I think that's part of the reason why it's so easy for me now to talk about my journey is if I had all the information I have access to now in my brain or through you or through other people, I would have done how do I word this? I would have done the cancer journey a heck of a lot different. First of all, I wouldn't have done the surgery, because it wasn't a pleasant way to lose body parts or lose weight. Eating's never going to be the same losing, a quarter to a third of my stomach. And chemo, I'm being honest, I'd rather take a bullet before I hop on chemo again. That's how brutal it was. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like I don't have the words in my vocabulary, but my very first time taking that pill called sunetid malate, within 5 minutes I could feel it dissolving through my body and just like the tingliness of it, and that's not a normal feeling. You shouldn't. A person shouldn't have to go through that to get better. And in my case, I didn't get any better. So the pain and misery of not knowing and just putting my trust into other people because they have a label, a doctor's label. Um, it was hard, it was really hard. And so even now, flash forward to today's date, I've gone through 11 oncologists, which some of them we knew we were going to go through because they were temporary, but the ones that I haven't agreed with or seen eye to eye with, we've parted ways and I find somebody else. um, and that's no disrespect towards them, but I like an open-minded doctor, not a closed-minded doctor. There's more than one path. There's more than one pathway to cure something. And if you're saying, "Oh, you got to do the pill and this is the only route," you're not the doctor for me.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, at the very least, you want someone who is open to listening to what you have to say, right? Because it's you that's experiencing everything, right? That
Yeah,
all they can do is observe and report, right?
yeah, and that's just it. Whether it's cancer, or diabetes, or Crohn's, or whatever disease it is, the individual living with the illness knows about it. I mean, they don't know 100%, of course, but they know what it feels like. And I could talk to you and explain it to you on how it feels, but unless you deal with it yourself, you're not going to know. It just, it's it's redoing the report, so to speak, or just continuing spreading off the information without knowing. It'd be like, from a comparison standpoint, I don't know if you like ACDC, the music, but it'd be like watching ACDC on the TV versus in concert. It's a complete different experience. And so that's what I say is I don't have a problem with doctors at all. I love doctors. We need them. I have a problem with the closed-minded ones.
So at this stage, the doctors that you're talking to, they understand like the therapies that you're doing, and they're supportive of it, or they're least open to hearing feedback from you.
So yes and no. The I have two different cancer teams still. One's local, one's out of state. The local one is 110% supportive of me now, because they've seen me going from death's door to where I'm at now. And even during the horrible treatment, they were supportive of me. And when I wanted to make changes, like, hey, it's your body, your choice. Um, so from the local people I deal with, yes, 100% support, amazing. And I've now even gotten doctors out of town. Like I have a naturopathic over in Linwood, which is like 2 hours from my house. They're super supportive of me. They're the ones that actually got me to go keto also. And I just like, well, hey, instead of going keto, let's just go full on carnivore. Because I mean, I did keto for a couple of months, but afterwards I just went to carnivore without even telling them. And they're like, oh, well, we were going to suggest that, but we didn't think you had the discipline for it. So it's like they were withholding some information from me because they didn't think I wanted that much of a challenge yet. And I was like, hey, I'm all for challenges. So what I will state though, as far as a doctor perspective, is my out of town doctor, oncologist. He's a GIST specialist. One of the smartest individuals I've ever met. Like he's the one that's came up with all these different mutations, all these different types of clinical trials, these treatments. Smart guy. Albert Einstein smart. Great personality. Love him to death. But me and him still don't see eye to eye on the natural approach versus the doctor approach. Um, he still tells me to this day, and mind you, he's told me this since I've gone natural, that it doesn't matter what I do, lifestyle or food choice wise, I cannot control the cancer. The nutrition and lifestyle choices don't make a difference. And here we are. I've been seeing this guy for 2 years now, and you know, he's watched me go from looking decent to looking bad, and now to looking amazing. And he still is closed-minded enough, stating that my lifestyle and food doesn't make a difference. Um, which is kind of sad because he's the smartest dude I've ever met. And, and he's I don't know how many tens of thousands of patients he probably has, or thousands of patients he has. And it's like, can't you just be open minded enough to see what I've been through and the changes I've made? And if you don't want to believe me itself, maybe ask a couple of your patients to have the same mutations as me that aren't having success if they want to do what I'm trying, make a small clinical trial study group out of it. And that was still shot down. So I was like, man. But to go on
Wow.
a tangent real quick about that, if you don't mind, just because it's fresh in my head. Last month or the month before, I don't remember what it was, I went out of town to a GIST conference. My first ever conference to learn about my type of cancer or the type of cancer I deal with. And the funny thing about this conference is you had to tell them if you had diet restrictions because food was supplied. And I told them, yeah, I got restrictions. Beef, butter, bacon, and eggs is all I eat. So first of all, they could not, how do you, they could not adhere to my order of beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. That was unheard of for them. Like, we can't do that. Bring your own food. So I brought, a beef, butter, bacon, egg scramble, and I ate it cold. And what's funny is I'm looking around watching everybody eat, and it's salads or sandwiches or breaded chicken and everything with a bunch of carbs, low protein. And after lunchtime, everybody's like in the auditorium, just snoozing, having a carb crash. I'm the only one that's wide awake, all peppy like, trying to learn. So it's like, here you got all these people with cancer, and you're feeding them carbs.
Right. It's yeah. But we're just so like people are not thinking about it at all, right? Because it's just that's what they've done their whole lives. So that's the problem. Unless it's put in front of you and you're told like sugar feeds cancer, everything that's carbohydrate becomes sugar. Unless that's like put in front of your face, it's really no one is ever going to reach that conclusion on their own, right?
Yeah, you kind of get forced to reach that conclusion, in my opinion. Whether by you get the
Mm.
illness or people like you and I keep preaching about it. But it's like from a standpoint, and it's sad. I've watched dozens of people in the last couple of years get diagnosed with cancer. Friends of mine, neighbors of mine, people throughout the world. People outreach me thanks to your channel and other channels now. And I'm watching people have success that listen, and I'm watching people die that don't listen. And it's like all you have to do is be open minded, have a little bit of discipline, and try, and you could prolong your life a little bit longer, or quite a longer, depending the situation.
Right. So, just on that point, like you must be involved with some support groups and things like that, like on Facebook and that kind of thing. I would guess. Other people doing this that you're in contact with that have seen things turn around like you did? Like if they've dropped the chemo and gone this way.
So actually, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty certain you might have interviewed one of my friends, Lisa Gates, recently. She's got the same type of cancer I have, different mutation, and I actually asked her permission to bring her up in this conversation with you. And she's been, I wouldn't say she's listening to me 100%, but she's been following my advice and, going down different rabbit holes and applying what she wants. And when I first met her, she was vegan and plant based, and which, mind you, I already tried that too, didn't have any success. And not to be rude, but when I first met her, when she was vegan and plant based, she didn't look bad, but she didn't look good. You could tell something wasn't 100% right with her. And then after a while, she wound up in the hospital. And I told her, I was like, all right, Lisa, I was like, not to be a dick, I'm going to poke the bear again. You need to try carnivore. I was like, this is your eye opener. Hop on Carnivore, give yourself 30 days. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, you tried 30 days. I won't bug you anymore about it. So after she gets released from the hospital, she starts, doing the carnivore train. And I think she's now 4 or 5 months carnivore based. I could be mistaken on the dates. She's put on 20 to 25 pounds. Most of it's muscle. She actually just sent me a body composition score yesterday, which is her numbers are amazing. She's putting on muscle again as a stage. I think she's stage 4, stage 3. I don't remember. But as a cancer patient, she's putting on muscle. She's looking better. She's actually aging backwards, in my opinion. Um, she glows differently. And from a treatment standpoint, I didn't tell her to do anything as her own doing. But I kept telling her, I was like, hey, why do you want to continue to inflame your body with treatment? You got to realize that body inflamed can't heal. And if you're doing all these extra properties, I mean, just putting information in her brain. So one day she gets a hold of me, and I think she was doing the pill every day at that point in time, like I was. And one day she gets a hold of me, and she's like, I haven't done the pill for a couple days. So she made her own new regimen up with the pill, and what she's been doing, it may or may not still be consistent, but she was intermittent fasting, and then she would go on an aggressive fast for a couple days, and then she would start her chemo pills when she was in a fasted state, and then she would just only do her pills in a fasted state, and then when she refed, she'd stop the pills. And I wish I had the report in front of me; I could read it. But she just went to the doctor, I think, within the last month or so to get an imaging done. No new cancer growth. Like everything's stable. And her doctor basically told her, "Oh, the treatment must be working." And I think she fessed up to the doctor, "Well, I'm not taking a treatment every day like I'm supposed to be." So then now they want to monitor her even closer, as far as scan results, which I understand imaging can cause more harm to the body as well. If you're going in imaging all the time, there's radiation involved and other stuff. But like I told her, I was like, if you're willing, what's wrong with the 3 month interval? Bust your butt for 3 months, stay disciplined, and then come back in 3 months and prove to the doctors what you're doing is working. And if it's not working, then you could hop back on what you were doing. But how do you know unless you try? And she's not just one of them. There's many people. There's probably 6 or 7 people that's outreached to me about cancer. I mean, there's more than that, but there's 6 or 7 I'm on close contact with that are doing a lot better by, I wouldn't say listening to me 100%, but listening to my information and going down their own rabbit holes with it and applying what could fit into their life and what can't fit into their life. And it's just, if more doctors could talk about this and prescribe that type of knowledge too, more people would listen to a doctor than you or I, just because of the certification, in theory.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this should at least be some kind of first line of defense. It's like when you go and see the doctor and you have this, you have cancer developing. It's like the doctor says, okay, there are a number of treatments you can do, but as a first thing, let's get your diet to the point where you're at least starving the cancer.
That would be a medical, how do you call it? That'd be a medical victory if doctors would start doing that. And from a doctor slash veterinarian comparison, when an animal or a dog or cat or horse, whatever, has an issue, you take it to the vet. What's their first words they normally ask? Well, have you changed your animal's diet recently? Well, fuck, if
Yeah,
you're
what's
asking
he
that to
been
the
eating?
doctors, what do you ask? Why don't you ask about the humans?
Right.
Uh, so that in itself, is like, and that just shows a veterinarian smarter than a normal human doctor, not within a reason, because they at least ask, well, what's the diet been like? And honestly, you think about it, diet doesn't matter what type of diet, it is a fuel source. Well, if it's a fuel source, it has to have an engine that could run on that fuel source. So, from a vehicle standpoint, if you have a gasoline engine and you put diesel in it, it's not going to run or to run really bad. If you take a diesel engine and you put gasoline in it, it ain't going to run at all and you're going to burn up your motor. Well, if you look at least across America, look at all the different fuel sources everybody's putting into their body, and look at all the freaking illnesses we have and obesity epidemics and everything else. It's because we are, as a whole, because we don't know any better, don't care. We just how do I word it? I think you laughed at this last time. Just because it fits in the mouth doesn't mean it's not food. you know, uh, we have to really be cautious on what goes in the hole. Just because it fits doesn't mean it should. Just because it goes in the mouth doesn't mean our body knows what to do with it. So prime example of that is if you eat something that you know is not going to absorb, what do? You throw up or you get diarrhea. Well, that is a form of releasing the toxins. Well, why would you put the toxins in the first place? People say dose makes the poison. Well, poison is poison. It doesn't matter if it's a small dose or a big dose. Eventually, it's going to kill you. You want to get killed a little bit per day, or you want to get killed all at once. To me, I'd rather not get killed at all and do what I can to stay alive, or stay alive as long as I can.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so the Christmas and celebrating and everything is coming up. You've got this fast starting January 1. What's going to happen in the meantime? Like when everyone else has got the turkey and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and whatever it is over Christmas, are you going to be having the ribeyes or?
All right, so I'll be honest. Since it's the holiday season coming up, I may indulge a little bit, but a little bit. I found out the hard way with Thanksgiving. I indulged a lot, and I paid for it for like 3 or 4 days. Um, as humans, we have temptation issues. I've been going to church recently too. That's been a blessing. Getting closer to the spiritual stuff. Humans are born with a sinful nature. I call that sinful nature temptation issues. um, so with Thanksgiving, I had planned to be strict. My mother was nice enough to help make me carnivore friendly meals so I could stay strict to my diet. Same thing with Thanksgiving or Christmas. I got some carnivore friendly meals my mom is making me, and I'm going to stick to my diet this time. I may indulge in a few pieces, but not much. But with Thanksgiving, my cousin showed up with green bean casserole, and mind you, that is my favorite dish of all holiday dishes. And I was like, a couple bites won't hurt. Well, I should have known better because dose doesn't make the poison. Poison's poison, and if it's addictive, it is addictive. It doesn't matter if it's one bite or a bazillion bites. So that one bite of green bean casserole led into having turkey with gravy, ham and gravy. I stayed away from the mashed potatoes because I am allergic to potatoes. So I did, control myself with that. But I had biscuits, I ate everything. And I put on like 8 or 9 pounds in one day just from Thanksgiving. Like I was like 4 or 5 months pregnant, and guys can't even be pregnant. Like I was that inflamed, that bloated. It was bad. I didn't sleep that night
Yeah,
at all because everything was in so much pain. All my inflammation came back, and it's like it's not worth it. But what I tell people, if you fall off the train, you fall off the horse. That's okay. Just get back on. That's how you learn.
yeah. And I always think when you do get those symptoms coming back pretty fast, it's good guardrails, because it's a good reminder. Okay, we need to get back on the horse. We need to keep doing this way of eating properly.
Yeah, I like how you worded that. They're rub rails, guardrails. It keeps you in the path to feeling good, which goes
Mm,
back to earlier in the interview is I said, "Well, how do you stay so strict?" Well, you just answered that. When you're not strict, you hit one of those guardrails and you feel like trash, whether it's momentarily or for days. Well, let's go back to being strict again because I don't feel like that one meal, enjoying that one meal for 5 or 10 minutes is worth screwed up 48 or 72 or 96 hours of my life.
That's right. When I tried to introduce some vegetables back, months ago, that little bit of crunchiness that was now in my food was no match for the joint pain that came rushing back. And it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, not going to make that mistake again.
And it doesn't take much. That's the crazy part. That's why people keep saying, dose makes the poison. Well, it's okay, things in moderation. Well, if you're going to eat something in moderation, it's going to cause you inflammation. It's going to cause you pain. It's going to cause you, IBS or constipation. How is that? Oh, how is that acceptable? Is like you'd be like, oh, let me just cut my wrist real quick, just because I want to bleed a little bit. It's like it's like where's the common sense of that?
Exactly.
Oh
So,
man.
A- Anthony, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way of getting in contact?
Well, right now my name's Anthony Haydock. That's on my Facebook page, and that is also on my Instagram page. I'm not very good or fast with Instagram. I've been learning that. I do have a YouTube channel, which is going pretty well. It's slow and steady wins the race. I'm learning technology. So YouTube is Anthony's Making Cancer My Bitch. It actually let me spell it all out and cuss. TikTok doesn't have the H, so it's Making Cancer My Bitch without the H on TikTok. For whatever reason, TikTok won't allow the H. I don't know why.
Yeah, but it's interesting that that's the thing that TikTok's sensitive about.
It makes no sense to me on in reality because
Mm.
there's a lot of all kinds of stuff on TikTok. I'll say that much. It's,
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's
definitely.
some of those platforms can be used for good if you watch the right stuff, but sometimes it's easy to go down the wrong rabbit holes on those things. And I understand why they call it TikTok because you just get lost in time and it just tick tock around.
Right, right. Well, I'll link to your socials below. Thank you so much for coming back on and sharing your story, Anthony, and all the best for Christmas, New Year, and the 7-day fast.
I appreciate that, Dave. I'll be in contact with you during that fast, let you know how it goes.